The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to this City and Guilds webinar about how to make the most of applying for a Princess Royal Training Award. I'm Michael Osbald-Eston and I'm joined by my colleague Sally Ely from City and Guilds. And first of all, can I thank you all for joining us. All attendees are in listen-only mode, but we do encourage you to use the question and chat pane on the right-hand side of your screen to engage with us. And we're going to be with you for the next half an hour or so, and hopefully during that time we'll help you to make the most of your application. If this is your first time that you've done a webinar, if you look at that pane on the right-hand side, you'll see that you've got a number of options, and perhaps it's good to just look at it and familiarise yourself with it for a moment. You'll also notice on that side that you can download the application form and the guidance document. Now they're really important, and we suggested in the email we sent out to you that you should do that. Don't worry if you've forgotten, you can do it now, but it will be really useful if you've got those documents in front of you when Sally comes to go through her part of the seminar. During the course of the next 30 minutes, as I say, Sally's going to be exploring three key areas. She's going to be looking at the application form and the guidance document, relating the two to each other and showing how important that guidance document is. She's going to be providing you with information about what the assessors are looking for, and again that's key to making sure that your application is successful. And she's going to be sharing some top tips. Now do listen out for those, because those are going to give you the best chance of success as you apply for one of our awards. Well, at City and Guilds we are very proud indeed to be able to offer for the first time ever the Princess Royal Training Awards. Very much part of our commitment as a Royal Charter charity to encourage the development of skills, but also to celebrate the excellence in skills and to showcase that excellence and broadcast it to other people so that they can copy and emulate it. And we're delighted that our President, Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal, has given her name to these awards and provided that royal seal of approval. So something, again, very special about these awards is that connection with the royal patronage. Obviously, to have successful award programs, they have to be credible. And we've looked at that very carefully, and we've recruited a team of expert assessors who are led by a chief assessor, all of whom have experience in assessing awards and providing quality assurance against award programs like this. So that's a really key part of the Princess Royal Training Awards, the quality of the assessors and the experience of the assessors and the chief assessor to ensure that people know how credible they are and have confidence in those awards. Obviously, their job is to assess the evidence that you provide against the criteria. Now, those criteria have been developed in collaboration with employers. We've talked to small employers, to large employers, to multinational employers. We've been across the United Kingdom to all sorts of sectors and to places to ensure that the criteria that we're going to assess you against are the criteria that employers want to be recognised in their learning and development and training programs. And it's important to say at this stage that we're looking for employers who achieve a standard. So this isn't a winner-takes-all award. This is encouraging employers to aim for a standard, to aspire to a standard, and be recognised for achieving that standard of excellence. Consequently, there are no specific categories in these awards. Any employer of any size, from any sector, and from any background can apply for an award because we're judging against a standard. And that standard means that we can define that an employer has reached a standard of excellence which they should be proud of and which we want to recognise through the Princess Royal Training Awards. Now, the final decision will be taken by a group of commissioners, and those commissioners will include Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal herself. She's agreed to spend time with the commissioners in the middle of July to look at the recommendations that the Chief Assessor will make to her and make the final decision as to which employers and organisations receive a Princess Royal Training Award for 2016. And again, we're delighted that she's offered her time to do that. And I think that's a real mark of the importance of these awards and the recognition that the impact of training and learning development has for employers and on the economy of the nation. Don't forget, if you're taking part in this webinar live, you can submit questions to us during the webinar. Anything that we can't answer today for one reason or another, we'll include along with all the other questions and answers in a document that we'll share and circulate to everybody after the webinar. And we'll also make sure we send you all the slides that we've used during this webinar, so you'll have access to them. And of course, you can always listen to this online again if you want to. If you're watching or listening to this for the first time online rather than live today, then there's an email and a phone number you can use to contact us. And we're incredibly keen that you should do that so we can help you develop your application and have the best possible chance of success in making an application for one of these awards. And that's exactly what Sally is going to focus on now. So I'm going to pass you over to Sally to take you through the application form and through the guidance notes. Sally, over to you.
Thank you, Michael, and for that introduction to the Princess Royal Training Awards. So before I go into the detail then of the application and the guidance, I just thought I'd start by saying that what's most important in your application is to tell us a story. What we're looking for is a clear, concise story of your journey, of how you got from A to B in whatever programme you're putting forward to get this award. And we want it to be evidenced along the way as well, but it's that overall story that we're looking for. So as you go through it, if you just have in your mind, this has got to tell a story, that will help you. As Michael said, in terms of what I'm going to cover, I'm going to look with you in more detail at the application form and the guidance for applicants, which are two different documents. Hopefully you'll have them. Michael said they're in the bottom right-hand corner. You can download them now. I'm going to provide some background details about what the assessors will be looking for against the hallmarks, and I'll talk to you more about these hallmarks in a minute, and share some tips that the assessors have shared with us about how to maximise your chance of getting success. So where should you begin then? Planning's always a good start, isn't it? And never more so than for this award. And I would definitely recommend that you take some time to properly read through the application form, but most importantly, the guidance for applicants. Because although they look the same, they're actually very different, and it's the guidance document that contains all that detailed information that will make sure you put the right information in the right part when you're filling in the form. So I mentioned these hallmarks. The whole Princess Royal Training Award standards is based around 3 hallmarks. And these are that, first of all, training and learning and development is integral to your business performance. We want to see that first and foremost. Secondly, the programme that you put forward has been delivered efficiently and effectively. And thirdly, that the programme has an impact on the success of the organisation and its people. So we're looking at those 3 things in order to be able to give you that standard. And the application form is hung around the 3 hallmarks. So if I just take you through a bit of the logic of the application form before we go into more detail, that might give you a bit of an understanding of how it's been put together. At the beginning, there's a scene setting section where there's no marks, but it is a useful context setting piece, and it gives you a space to put general information. The core of the application is around the 3 hallmarks. This is where you get to structure your narrative, and this is where you get the marks. So that's the core of it. Each of the hallmarks is in 2 parts, and there's specific criteria for each of these parts. And I'll come back to that in more detail, but this is really important. If you think in your heads, the hallmarks and the criteria need to check, that will help you. Then there's a sharing best practice section, because we want to be able to share with others as City and Guilds Group what it is that you've done, and so that other people can do the same that you have, and the economy can grow. And finally, there's an endorsement section. We want to have it validated from the top of your organisation that what you've put forward is really important. So let's then dive into that form, okay? So if we look at the application form itself, I mentioned to you that the first part is a scene setting section. And if you've got it in front of you, or if you have a look at the slide, you can see that First of all, we've got that general administration gathering section where we want to look at how big you are, how many employees you have, what kind of sector you're in. We also ask you to name the programme you're putting forward. And I'd suggest that you do think of this as a headline that you'd like to see in the press. It will help with your story, and it gives the assessors straight away an understanding of what you're putting forward. And you'll also see that there's an area to describe your business. So you can straight away put what you do in a wider context so that we can see how you fit into the wider world. Then, so when we filled in that part, then we get into the hallmark section. And as I mentioned to you, they're all broken down into 2 sections each. And this first hallmark, the one which is about training and learning and development being integral to business performance, overall, this is all we want to see, that it's part of your DNA, that this is really runs through your whole organisation. And the first one is broken up into a strategic approach, the fact that you take a strategic approach to training, and also that you have working towards a sustainable learning culture. But looking at that form on its own, you won't get enough information. Oh, I should say at this point as well that there's a word count for each section. So, you really need to check how many words you're allowed for each part, because the assessors won't have time to read reams of extra copy that you might put in. But as I said, the form alone won't help you that much. If you'll need to look at the guidance, and if we look at the slide now, you can see that if you look at the guidance notes, there's a lot more detail. So for example, in the first a strategic approach, there's actually 4 criteria that you can refer to, that you need to just make sure that you're evidencing when you're writing your answer, when you're telling that story. And it also tells you how many points there is for each criteria. So again, there is guided. If you look at this document, it will really help you in working out what's most important. And as well as the narrative, we also give you the opportunity to provide extra evidence. So for each section of each hallmark, we give you examples of the type of evidence you can include. And definitely use this section, because it gives you a real chance to be able to show and prove what you're saying in your story. And there's, it could be anything from plans, figures, case studies. If you're not sure, get in touch. We're more than happy to talk to you about what might be applicable, but it will help you, and it will help you get those marks. And the way it's shown here is how it is for all of the hallmarks, obviously applicable to that particular hallmark. So moving on to the second hallmark then. This part is all about the nuts and bolts of the programme that you're putting forward. And the 2 sections are broken down into, firstly, the planning and delivery stage, and then the cost effectiveness. So again, we're looking for things like any innovation you've used. Did you use any new software, technology, that kind of thing? Tell us the detail of what you did. And again, refer to the guidance, because there'll be different amount of criteria for the different sections, and you'll be able to see exactly how much effort you should put into which section. Evidence again, use that extra evidence and back up what it is you're telling us. And then moving on to the third hallmark, and arguably this is the most important one, because it's all about the impact, the difference that what you've done has made. And the 2 elements here are the difference it's made to your organisation, to your bottom line. Did you sell more products? Did you improve your services? Have you got a better reputation? And also the impact on your people. How did they develop? What did they get out of doing it? Whether it be your staff, your volunteers, whoever. You really need to show this in this hallmark. So, as I said, those 3 hallmarks, that's the meat of the bones of the application. But we also want you to share your best practice with us. And this is an opportunity for you to show that you're ahead of others, and, get ahead, show off really, inspire us. It can do nothing but help your reputation anyway. So use this opportunity to say what other people could learn from what you've done. And then finally, we're looking for you to give us an endorsement from someone senior in your organisation to make sure that what you're putting forward is true, really. So, and it's just one tip here. Make sure it's not just a form filling exercise. Don't use a quote that's been used 10 times before in other situations. Make sure that it's relevant to the application that you've put forward, because it will be noticed. So that's really a bit of a whistle-stop tour through the application process itself and looking at the guidance. As Michael said, I'll be also going to share some top tips with you as well that the assessors have shared with us in terms of what else can you do to make sure that you put your best attempt forward. First of all, get somebody else to read your application. This could be a friend, it could be a colleague, it could be someone you drag off the street. It's just important that somebody else has looked at what you've written, because it's really easy to get too close to it and think, oh yeah, I've put something good down there, but actually it might not flow properly, or you might miss something vital out. So get someone else to have a read through. Answer the questions that you're being asked, not just what's in your head and what you want to put down. And also refer to those criteria. Double check, cross-reference to make sure that you've included the evidence and answered what it is that we are looking for from you. Avoid jargon. Every sector has got its own language, its own jargon, and it can become really easy to talk in that all the time. We ask you that in the spirit of telling a story, that you write in as plain language as you possibly can. It will help the assessors read it, and it will paint a better picture really for us. Use and clearly reference relevant evidence. So again, if you're going to attach a 20-page report and it's page 16 that's relevant, make sure that's clearly marked. Better still, just send page 16. Just make sure, use the opportunity, but clearly mark it. And finally, ask us for help. We really want you to succeed, and we're here to answer questions, whether that's by email or phone. If you get stuck, please do give us a call. Please get in touch, because we'd be more than happy to talk to you about where you are with your application. We want you to succeed, so please do feel free to ask us anything. I think that's it from me. I'm going to hand back over now to Michael so that he can talk to you a bit more about the process that happens after you've applied, the what next, and then we're going to take some questions. So Michael, back over to you.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Sally. And I think everybody listening to the webinar can tell how excited we are about the Princess Royal Training Awards and the amount of enthusiasm and commitment we've got to them. And I think Sally personified that, and I can say that the whole team here at Sitting Gills is really excited about what we built over the last 12 months and what we're offering to you employers across the country. So thank you, Sally, for that. The process, yes, let's just run through the process and help people to understand what happens when. Well, the date to remember is Friday the 15th of April. And the reason to remember that date is that's the closing date. Now, we really hope that you don't wait till the last minute to make your application. It'd be much better if you can get it in earlier than that. If you leave it to the last minute, then things tend to be rushed, you tend to miss out, you won't be able to find a friend or colleague to read through it in time, you won't be able to pull somebody off the street to read it, as Sally suggested. So really do it before the 15th if at all possible, because that will give you the best chance really of putting in the sort of submission, the sort of application that you deserve because of the fantastic work that you're doing. What happens next? Well, our team of assessors will assess all the application forms, and they'll decide which ones are ready to go through for the next round of assessment. And the second part of the assessment is a validation visit to your place of work to meet the people who've been involved in the training and development, to meet the people who've benefited, to talk to senior management, and to receive a short presentation. And that visit will take probably 2 to 3 hours, around about 3 hours, I suspect. And it's a really important part of the process. And again, it gives you, the applicant, the opportunity to talk to the assessor, and possibly somebody from Sitting Gills too who might accompany them. Gives you a chance to talk to them and let them meet people who experience the training firsthand. Following that visit, they will obviously compile a report which the chief assessor will receive, and he will look through all the reports by this stage and decide which ones go forward to the commissioners for the meeting in the middle of July when the final decision's made. But there is something else which is really important about the Princess Royal Training Awards and about applying for them, and that's no matter at which point into the awards you get, you will always receive feedback from the assessors. So although these are free to enter, there is no cost incurred in entering the Princess Royal Awards, you will all receive, everyone will receive feedback from the assessors. So it's almost like free consultancy, because wherever you get to in the award process, you will get benefit by those assessors providing you with feedback. Now, that feedback might help you understand how you can develop your training and learning development program better for the future. It might help you build a better application for next year. Or if you're successful enough in receiving one of our awards, it might help you grow even greater things on top of the work you've already done. So if you see it as an investment in your time in making the application, then we will return that investment through the feedback, through the advice that we give, and through the fact that the assessors, these professional assessors, will be able to advise and take you even further on the journey of learning and development and training. But like I say, don't leave it to the last minute, because if you do it earlier, I think you'll benefit significantly. And as Sally said, we are here to help and support. We're really keen to help and support you. The idea of these awards, and the reason why we started them in the first place, is to showcase the best of training and development and learning across UK employers, large and small, across all sectors, whether they're commercial employers, whether it's public sector, or whether it's the voluntary sector. And we're here to help you build those applications and to make the success that they can be. So I want to reiterate the three key things that Sally said to you earlier on when she gave her presentation. And the three really key things to remember are: read the guidance document carefully, because that guidance document enables you to answer the questions in the application form. It's really the blueprint as to what you need to provide. So the guidance document is really important. Plan carefully, as Sally said, and everybody says, we all know that if we want to succeed in any task, the more carefully we plan, the more likely we are to succeed. If you plan what you want to put into your application, it allows you to write the narrative, tell the story, make it make sense throughout the application form, and that planning is the bit that helps you to do that. So plan carefully and plan for success, and make sure, please, that you evidence the impact that your training and learning development has had on your organisation, on its people, on your products, on your services, on retention, on the bottom line, whatever it was that you were aiming to achieve. Evidence that impact, because the evidence of that impact is the thing that our assessors will be looking for. So I think we are now moving to the point where we are looking for the questions that you've been sending through to us during the course of this webinar, and I've got one or two things that are appearing in front of me. The first one we've got is around confidentiality. And somebody has said, if they put confidential material into the application form, will it remain confidential? And of course the answer is, of course it will remain confidential. We won't share confidential information. When we talk about celebrating what the winners of the receivers of the Princess Royal Training Awards have done, we will always check with you before we release information. So if you're providing with confidential business information, and obviously a lot of the evidence will be confidential, then you can rest assured that we won't be sharing it with other people. Want to pick up one or two other questions. Sally, we've had a question about whether charities can apply. Do you want to just pick that one up?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Charities can apply. Any employer organisation can apply. Any organisation who employs people can apply for a Princess Royal Training Award. So absolutely, charities can apply. Yes.
I think it's also worth saying too that if you have volunteers, then the training of volunteers is also can be part of the application. So if you're a charity and working with volunteers, then the impact that those volunteers have is the sort of impact that we're looking for, as well as in the commercial world. Absolutely. We've had another question around videos and whether people can attach videos to the application form. And in fact, we'd rather you didn't, to be honest, partly because they tend to be more megabytes than we can deal with. But that's not to say that when the validation visit takes place, then obviously you can show the video to the assessor when they come out and see you, and that means that you can use videos, but please don't attach them, because in terms of megabytes, it's simply too many. Sally, you talked about word count. Now, why is it that word count's important in the various sections of the application form? Why have we put word counts in?
Well, I think there's two parts of that. Partly is because obviously the assessors have a finite amount of time to be able to look at each of the applications, and so there needs to be a structure, and the word counts reflect the importance to a degree. Obviously, it's the criteria and the points, as I said, you need to look at really, but it's really so that it makes it manageable to apply. And don't forget, on top of the word counts, you can attach additional evidence that can back up the narrative part, but it is important that you stick within the limits that have been given.
Yes, and I think just to underline that, within the application form, the word counts are crucial, but the evidence you can attach don't count towards those words, but they are really important. However, they have to be relevant and they have to be referenced. And if you attach 1,000 pages, we probably won't read them. So I think it's using those attachments to provide the additional evidence to the statements that will be made in the application form. Sally, you want to come back on that one?
No. I was just going to say, someone else has asked a question about costs, about whether there's any cost associated with the awards, and that is completely free to enter. There are no costs associated with it, and as Michael said earlier as well, you also get feedback on anything you put forward by trained assessors, so you will actually get some benefit no matter where you are. So even if you don't think you'll meet the standard this year, say put an application forward, it's worth it because you'll get something out of it.
Now, somebody's asked an interesting question here, Sally, you might want to pick up on, which is, can a company or an organisation make more than one application for Princess Royal Training Award?
And that, yes, the answer is yes, they can. It has to be for a different programme, so you can't put 2 applications for the same programme, but a company can absolutely put two different applications forward. Yes, it's just got to be clear and separate. It's got to show that impact that was specific to that piece of training or learning and development.
I know that we've got several training providers who've joined us on the webinar today, and we've had 1 or 2 questions about how training providers can be involved in the Princess Royal Training Awards. Well, I think there are 2 ways. If a training provider has provided employment as an employer to their staff, then obviously there's an opportunity to apply for a Princess Royal Training Award for the work they've done with their staff. Training providers can also work with their employers to help them put together applications, but they can't apply on behalf of employers. The application has to come from an employer. However, if you think about it, the design of the training and the reason for having it and the impact will very often involve a training provider working with an employer to work out the most effective way of training the staff in that company, and they then get the kudos as being the provider of that training. So although training providers can work with employers, it's got to be the employer that makes the application and the employer who references the importance of the training provider. Now, any sensible training provider will sit down with the employers they're working in and will be writing really good applications because they're the ones who probably know how to evidence that. It also, of course, helps the story within the company about the impact of the training. So if you're an HR manager or if you're in charge of training and you're going to your board to ask for additional funding, if you've got a Princess Royal Training Award that says, look, the training in our organisation delivered this impact and we have royal recognition for it, then I can't help but think that within any board situation, that's going to be really quite a powerful story to tell. Just to go back to the evidence, how do people send evidence, Sally? How do they actually get it to us?
Well, they can upload it along with their application. But this is something I'd say we all have IT problems at times. So if anyone has any problems in sending us something, do get in touch, because there could be something that we can help you with. It could be an IT glitch somehow. So it should be a case of simply uploading them. But if you have any issues, get in touch and we'll help you out.
Well, we got one more question that's come up, and it's about the ceremony. If you go through the whole process and you are to be presented with the Princess Royal Training Award, what happens next? Well, we'll be in touch in the summer to tell you whether you've been successful or not. And then in the autumn, there will be a ceremony, there will be a celebration, a very special celebration to present the Princess Royal Training Awards to those companies and organisations and charities who've been successful in applying for them for 2016. And of course there will be the Princess Royal Training Awards 2017 and 18 and 19, we hope too. But there is certainly going to be a prestigious event in London in the autumn. We haven't got the date yet, we're still working on that. But we do mean to celebrate, and celebrate we will, those who achieve the Princess Royal Training Award Mark of Excellence, because those who achieve that award are truly deserving of celebration, truly deserving of not just their moment of glory, because we want to make it more than that. We want to shout it from the rooftops. We want to take those stories, make them available to their employers, help other people emulate what's been done, and therefore drive up the standards across industry, across all the various sectors of industry, through presenting the very best that we've got in the United Kingdom to all those other companies who might want to emulate them and copy them and aspire to receive themselves a Princess Royal Training Award. Now, I think we've come to the end of the questions that we've got so far today. We will be checking on emails to see if we've got them. We do want to remind you that we are here to help, and that there are phone numbers, there are email addresses, there are websites. We are more than happy to talk to you. We will sit down. We've had several conversations already with aspiring applicants. We've had really interesting conversations, people testing ideas with us, wanting to know from 2 different applications which would be the best one to put forward. So we're here, and we're more than happy to do that, and that's very much part of how we want to progress the Princess Royal Training Awards. I want to thank my colleagues who are in the office with me. I want to thank Julia and Remy, who've been working really hard on these awards with us over the last few weeks and been involved in this webinar. I especially want to thank Sally, that tremendous presentation that she made, and for sharing her enthusiasm and her commitment, and for all the work that she's been doing. But I also want to thank you, please, for attending today. We're very grateful you're joining us on the webinar. Don't forget we're here. We want to wish you good luck, but in some ways this isn't about luck, it's about planning, and it's about evidencing, and it's about reading those guidance. But I'm sure you're all going to do that after we've talked to you today. We really look forward to receiving your applications. We've had several already, and we've been very excited reading those, so we're really looking forward to them. So thank you again for joining us, and goodbye.